Hello there, DrupalCon Europe. It's me, LJ Rich here. Thank you so much for inviting me to present the opening keynote at this year's event. It was a real pleasure. Here are some highlights. And I started by talking about why creativity is so important. Many people imagine the creative process is where you sit and stare into space and magically an idea appears, fully formed, and there you have it. The next big thing destined for seed capital or world popularity. But inspiration isn't something that just hits us. We just have to go out and get it. It's not just about practice. It's not just about persistence. It's not even about talent. It's about community. I'm doing this all live, so I'm hopeful that I'll get it all right. But our time together will hopefully give you more than just encouragement to get creative. I'll talk about how our creative choices can impact the world and leave you with a set of tools that I've spent time testing, some based in science and some are completely empirical. And I'm going to do this all with music. So here's our run through. And what better way to start a show than a specially written song all about building websites?
Ain't got time to sit and reflect. I type so true, I don't need autocorrect. My screen is clean and my code's concise. I got a clear desk for my keyboards and mice. Power sockets in every wall. My conscience is clear like a cleaning store. Your sight is a sight to behold. The way you've laid out your CMS, responsive content and the rest. Is it love or is it design? Your website's so much better than mine.
Okay, that's enough of that. Among other things, we talked about the rules that make up the best music ever. It turns out you just have to balance 3 pairs of words. Music and creativity needs a certain level of unpredictability and chaos, as well as predictability and harmony. So what happens if we play C major all the time? This is what it sounds like. It's nice at first. What's the story? Where is it going? It would kind of suck to just hear C major all the time. It's boring after a while. What about playing all the notes at once? It's like putting all the ingredients in the kitchen in one plate of food or mixing all the colours in a paint box. It would be utter chaos. And this balance is really well illustrated by going to the forest. The chaos is there, the plants aren't arranged in order, the trees aren't in a line. But there can be any configuration of greenery, but within that there are fractals and patterns from the markings on the leaves right up to the shape of the tree. The next pair is tension and resolution, best described with this phrase. For dance music fans, it's that feeling of waiting for the drop, the bass and drums to come in rhythmically. And for other music, it might be the chorus coming in that everyone can sing along to. And there are notable examples of non-resolving tension that work really well. It's understanding the rules and bending them. So it's not resolving. It doesn't resolve. Just building suspense. It's not even resolving there. What a brilliant piece. That's clubbed to death. Okay, let's see what we've got next. The final pair, freedom and limits. To create best is when you have limits there. Without those constraints, you don't actually know where you need to be focusing. Herbie Hancock does a great talk on Buddhism, jazz and creativity, which explores this further. And what we perceive as musical is fluid. Most people's musical tastes evolve over time. And what is considered by the wider community as acceptable and musical is also very changeable. Back in the 12th century, I bet you weren't expecting to hear these words when you were coming to a technology presentation. Back in the 12th century, if you weren't singing in octaves, you were out of tune. But now we listen to a lot more than just plain song. My full talk includes a very musical explanation of the history of music and technology and how we, as humans, have a deep effect on the wider society when we use technology in new and innovative ways. For example, how we listen to music now completely changed the structure of a song for the whole world. Streaming and sharing on a massive scale, auto-tune in every bedroom. Anyone can give a concert from their phone. It's made it all the more important to get to the chorus because we get bored within the first 20 seconds and move on. And the recommendation algorithms then suggest a track that's more interesting. I mean, this is fine for instant hits with catchy choruses and riffs, but many songs we love would fail to pass the 20 seconds to the chorus test. We have communication between composers, artists and listeners. No one needs to learn to play the guitar, you just use the software one. So if we live in a world where everything is ready-made and we choose songs off the shelf and we can play any instrument in the world, we can find the lyrics to any song just by Googling them, how can we find things that are outside of our familiar? How do we move out of this world of order? How do we get out of C major? I believe that conventional music practice doesn't necessarily help people think musically. That's not to say it's not useful to learn theory and your scales. It really is, and it can be a great shorthand for explaining things quickly to other musicians. But the music we play bears little resemblance to these patterns that we learn in practice. We learn patterns that make sense inside an isolated system, but they aren't cool. Here's something that I think applies outside of music practice. If you repeat the same routine over and over again, like practicing a piece of music over again, you're also practicing the same mistakes, which doesn't result necessarily in learning. Especially once you get on to more complex music, you need external stimuli. In the spirit of open source, I wanted to encourage people to contribute just one thing, even if it's not perfect. Rockstar developers who commit loads of changes have got to get their inspiration from somewhere. And it could be from you. That one change you make, one single contribution, could be the spark that lights the way for progress for everyone. The engineer who invented auto-tune built it because he was working on underwater sonar mapping. And at a party, someone suggested building something to help people sing in tune. And that was the inspiration behind an incredibly popular musical tool. Now, his invention is giving confidence and musicality to people without formal vocal training, and they might write the most beautiful song in the world, which otherwise would have remained unheard. I also really wanted to explain that learning isn't always easy. It's just as important to feel stuck and uncomfortable as it is to feel confident and ready. Learning feels good when we already know the subject matter, and sometimes it all comes easily, mostly through play or just being in the right frame of mind. I kid you not, though, all the best inspirations I have are either as a result of frustration, continued and sustained concentration, determination, and willingness to change my perspective. And it's that uncomfortable moment where you decide to try something new. That's where momentum can build. Learning actually improves your brain, helping with neuroplasticity. And by teaching others, we have to re-examine our processes and consider their processes, which may in turn stimulate us to learn more about a familiar topic. Please forgive the nature of this 4 a.m. diagram, but inspiration is sometimes messy, and you'll notice, compared to the previous learning chart, that interaction with others is such an important part of problem solving and building creativity. Improvisation, creative thinking, in music comes from being around others who do it. Your data set is being expanded each time someone plays you a song you've never heard before, or an unexpected chord, or sings a melody that surprises you. Here's a snapshot of some of the things I did as part of the creative process for this event, just what I did last month, and every bit of it helped when I wasn't at my desk. I got so obsessed with making this talk that it ended up on the BBC News. That's the Drupal talk in post-it form. And I didn't think my obsession with solving the Rubik's Cube would ever make it anywhere near a keynote. But the Drupal organising team were quite fascinated by my decision to use music to help remember the algorithms required to solve it. Here's the story. During our pre-events chats, we were talking about patterns, and I talked about wanting to do something on patterns. And I mentioned that I used music to solve the Rubik's Cube, like you do. Here's a quick primer. These are the moves you need to read cube notation. Each of the 6 faces is assigned a name based on holding a cube facing you. So you can move each face clockwise, I'm going to do this backwards, or anti-clockwise. Now, the notation felt a little bit intimidating at first, probably because I had no reference point for it. Remember, we said the brain loves patterns. It's harder to remember a set of 14 nonsense letters like Y, Y, E, 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 D, N, S, S, M, T, O, A, U. But much easier if it was in a sentence like, you need a system. So pre-cubing, I had no reference or memory in which to hook R, U, R prime, U, R, U to R prime. But by ascribing a note to each movement, I could memorise these patterns musically and therefore remember the algorithms. I used my existing pattern memory as a bridge to help make sense of something unfamiliar. So each of these sides had a different note. Now, something interesting happened. When I did it musically enough times, I started to understand the algorithms natively, more quickly. And then I didn't need to think of the tune for the more complex stuff that I had to learn. And as I did it more, I understood it intuitively. And then I didn't need to think of the pattern. I'd already made that connection and could go on to learn the new taxonomy without having to translate. In the same way that coding can start out intimidating, finding new ways to relate to the material offers a new perspective towards building an intuitive understanding. Oops. I put my solution online and got a response from the actual cube. Yes, the community multiplier. I was very proud of that. Finally, I chose to talk about how I applied creative thinking in some difficult and extreme scenarios and how ultimately unlocking creativity in times of need can be a formidable tool. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I was predictably very fearful of, well, all of it. I decided if I had to go through this, it would probably help a lot to break out of my existing routine of being scared and fearful. My existing data set was lacking in resilience techniques for medical procedures. I didn't have anything. My current process was to faint during injections, which was not useful at all. I had a phobia of needles, and my only experience of cancer treatment was watching my family suffer from it. However, I eventually managed to go from needle phobic to administering my own 15-minute long cancer injections at home during lockdown. How? Well, first I gathered data on personal resilience under stress. I reasoned doctors have to learn how not to faint during medical procedures. Then I reassessed my current process. I learned, brilliantly, if you tense up your larger muscles, that's your bottom, you're much, much, much less likely to faint. A simple physical trick that I never knew. And in terms of seeking diverse stimuli, astronauts and Navy SEALs have to deal with high-pressure situations. How do these people do it? I learned that by practicing calm breathing when you're not under stress makes it much easier to summon that skill in difficult situations. Certain breathing techniques can stop your brain going into fight, flight, or freeze. And I think that's very helpful in getting oxygen to your brain so you can still make decisions. It's like instead of practicing feeling bad and stuck, I try practicing with better sheet music or seeing these impossible runs as easier chords. It was still hard to get through, but my outlook slowly changed and my stress levels went down. Yes, I fainted the first few times when I was learning to give myself injections, but imagine how proud I felt when I finally managed it. And since then, I've been able to help others by drawing from these personal triumphs. I gave back to the community as well by filming a treatment for the BBC to help anyone else scared by the thought of chemotherapy or just simply wanting to know more about it. And I was overwhelmed by how many people got in contact to say it helped them. I feel that kindness is underrated. Talent is a thing people have or wish for, but I don't think talent matters half as much as the traits in these orange boxes. We're all born with different innate skills. Mine is definitely music. Yet all of these traits can be learned or found. Creativity can be trained like a muscle. Try it. Choose a skill. Use deliberate practice. Whether it's personal resilience or how to solve the cube, I want to hear about it. So, where do we go from here? Well, look, you're going to experience a lot of amazing content over the next few days. Absorb it. Make a note of what really made an impact. The homemade inspiration book is a great thing to look at when you need a push. There are lots of creativity techniques from the artist's way to design thinking, but to really get the most out of these processes, knowing is not half the battle. You need to start being comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you like to look at cool stuff online, take the crucial next step of writing down what inspires you about it. Making analogue marks on paper, by the way, activates different parts of your brain. And find collaborators. They don't even have to be real or even alive. You can have imaginary conversations with Leonardo da Vinci or Sherlock Holmes. No one will know. But I would recommend interacting with real humans, though. Online is fine, no need to get out there, but don't underestimate the power of connecting with real people. You have an awesome ready-made peer group here. And if you've never contributed to the open source community, give it a go. Find other people who have done it. I think they might be on this somewhere. If you normally build websites, look outside of your usual places of inspiration. You might even like to make a playlist of your current top songs, ready for when somebody here asks you to share it. Consider your dataset, your processes, your stimuli, and where and how it can be refreshed. So here's a collection of more things you can do during DrupalCon and beyond to bolster your creativity. I will put this and a few of the other slides on my social media accounts and share it with the DrupalCon team, so don't worry too much about writing it down. Now, I've helped many people and organisations think differently. But those that break through the most recognise there's a braveness required to unlock that creativity, to step outside of the old process, data and stimuli. I did highlight the power of yet. If I do that, I can actually point to it, can't I? Ha! This is really cool. I can't do this becomes I can't do this yet. So good luck on your training, DrupalCon Europe 21. It's been a pleasure and an honour to share this time with your amazing hive mind. I've really enjoyed seeing your comments as well. So it's time for Q&A, but please feel free to use the chat to connect at the same time. That's a balance of order and chaos. Good luck, live long and prosper, and thank you.
Thank you very much, LJ. That was amazing. Thank you. That was a great performance and very well done in actually getting everyone together on the chat, because there was a lot of happening there.
That's the aim.
Yeah, so we got a couple of questions coming in. But there was, I will tell you on some of the other things that were happening on the chat while you were doing your performance. And I know that you were keeping an eye out on so many things at the same time. So this might be a question that's burning on the minds of the community. Do you know about the Drupal song?
Not only do I know about the Drupal song, I've written a little bit of a remix as a surprise for you all.
Oh, that's great.
I don't know if this is playing with a sacred text, but would you like to hear it?
We would. I think I say on behalf of the entire community, we would. Yes, please.
Coding and writing, fans running wild. Fill up my coffee, computer compiles. Hardline uploading, my graphics files. A massive screen, comfy chair, a cyberpunk style. If you've got a website, you need a system to manage your content. A Drupal. If you want to build a web application, you gotta download a Drupal. A Drupal rocks. Out of the box, modules drop in place just like Tetris blocks. I wanna download, install and start. My sources are open. Ooh, just like my heart. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yay, that was amazing. Thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. I'll stick that on YouTube for you all to enjoy.
There's a cheer going on in the comments,
Oh, thank you.
crowd going loud, and probably the question coming in a minute or two, is it open source? Can we reuse it?
Oh, yes.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Cool. Okay, so I think with that we are through the Q&A, and we need to prep for the next session happening here on the main stage. Thank you again, LJ Rich. It was amazing. I really enjoyed it. We all enjoyed it. And I
you.
hope you all enjoyed watching LJ's performance. Thank you very much, LJ.
It's a pleasure. Take care. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
So that's it. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you online.